Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming back to another episode of Declan's Autism Journey podcast. I actually have two special guests, one intentional and one unintentional in the background. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, doll. How are you?
Glad you're here again. I just love talking to you like you're my therapist without being my therapist.
Some people say.
All right. So today I thought we have so much to talk about, and as you and I have said already, like to each other offline, is that we could fill, I don't know, 100 episodes, right? About so much to talk about. But today, the one of the goals of this podcast is, as you know, my main goal is to help other moms not feel alone. And so I feel like sharing those honest, true feelings is what I can give, right? In sharing my journey. And so what I wanted to talk about in our previous episode, we talked about, what you do at Dr. M's office and things like that. But as I was watching it back, I was like, what I really want to talk about is our first meeting, which you're just amazing, and how I felt watching you. So you very early in our meetings opened up about your own son, Alex, and his challenges. And I just remember thinking, you're so cool and accepting. And I'm a hot, frantic mess. Like, how? I didn't even think it was possible for me to actually get to where you were and are. Because I was so like deep in it. My feelings, my emotions, I was so scared. As I've said, when we found Dr. M, as I look back, I'm like, oh my God, it was just a shell of a human, is how it seems like, you're just, I just felt like I showed up on his doorstep and was like, here's Declan, let's just try it. Like there wasn't really I was so scared to give him any hope and to carve out hope for Declan in the Malilla method. But I just remember watching you and the way you spoke about Alex and he's doing this, he's doing that, and then I had the privilege of meeting him, and he's amazing, and he immediately was spelling on the letterboard for me, but I still was so not comprehending that I had any hope to get where you were. And so
Yeah.
I think that's just really important to share, because I can sit here today and be like, no, I may not be where 100% you are, but I am pretty darn close. And RPM and Spellers has been the thing that has catapulted me into this new realm, because Declan is well on his way to communicating, and I'm well on my way to not having to guess and hope that I'm making the right choices for him. He's telling me, and again, like we talked about in our last, like we're backing off a little bit and we're kind of restarting because Declan and I have developed some bad habits on the letterboard, and
Yeah.
so just to reset, we have a local practitioner now, so we're just resetting. But we're 5 sessions in, and he's already independently spelling. Now he's not open communicating yet, but he'll get there, no doubt.
Oh,
But so
oh,
now that's where I was emotionally. And so I would just love to hear your perspective as to like how you got there. Because I think that's what resonates with moms when they are deep in it. Their emotions are running amok and they just feel like they're not doing anything right. They're not helping their child. They're not providing what their child needs. They don't know what their kid needs. I mean, I can't tell you how many birthdays, Christmases, if you would ask, what would Declan like? And I felt like a terrible mom, but I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Because he had so few things that I felt like he really enjoyed, that he got joy from. And so, again, that's just a really hard place to be. But so I want
I
other moms
I
to
want
hear
to
this.
forget what you just said because that's really powerful. Post RPM spellers, um, I realized why it seemed as though our kids really didn't want things is now how they answer me. When I ask Alex or any of my other students, what do you want for Christmas? Honestly, the answers are just so soulful and beautiful and generally don't cost a lot of money. So what I see is, oh, mom, I want to help other kids. I want to, Alex clearly said to me for his birthday, he said, I said, you have birthday money. What do you want to do? And he wrote, Mom, does Soma need money? I said, Soma has a foundation, baby. And that is the inventor of RPM. And he said, I said, you want to give your money to Soma? And he said, yes, I do. And he said, Mom, my life is forever changed now that I had a, a voice. I have a voice. So these kinds of things, the reason why maybe they really didn't want all these things, they really don't. Alex, still to this day, money is sort of incidental to him. You know, I'm sure if he was living in a shack, maybe he'd feel otherwise, but, you know, but they're a different breed. And, you know, I don't know if we should go into the conversation about what you said earlier. I mean, it's really powerful. I remember that feeling. It could make me cry. What you went through when you hear that diagnosis. And you hear that diagnosis and you see the obvious differences in your child. They're not accepted, you know, not the way other kids are. And so it's a lot to handle. But remember, I got 21 years on you, baby girl. Okay. Meaning not only age wise, but my son is 25.
Right.
So, you know, you kind of, and believe me, don't get me wrong. I have a lot of parents that have kids my age that do not have communication tools.
Right.
So of course they are deer in the headlights. My son tells me what he wants. We are working on many things, but previous to RPM, I really didn't think I was a good mother. And I'm just being really super honest. Um, I saw all these moms doing all these things, and I'm a working mom, and I felt less than. And this was before a lot of like virtual things that you could do. It was many years ago. And I felt like I couldn't be with him enough, and I needed to be with him more. But how do I keep the lights on? And
Right.
that's tricky. And so all these moms out there that are working moms, I am with you.
Yeah.
But I
Good.
have to tell you guys, and I want to go back to when he was 7 years old, and I'm going to do that in a minute. But when we found RPM, I, I became Wonder Woman. Forget Supermom. Okay. I was slaying dragons. I flew to Texas. I got trained. I flew to Texas again. I took him to camp. I talked to anybody that would listen. I started working with him regularly in school. I got RPM into Smithtown schools. Okay.
Which is not easy. Let's be clear. The school system.
Yeah, it's not in the districts out here on Long Island and in New York in general. We understand the naysayers. People cannot wrap their minds around our guys who look so critical and dysfunctional that they could have the intellect.
Yeah.
And I get it because I sat behind the therapist for 2 years with a video camera. Hope is a drug. I'm quoting JB.
Yeah.
JB Han, okay? And it is. And so when the last thing you want to be is duped.
Yeah.
Or your child duped. And that's why I think I have such a good, because back in when I started doing RPM and spelling with these kids, I was one of the only moms with an actual child with the disability other than Soma. All the other therapists I had worked with did not have children on the spectrum.
Right.
So the parents, and in Dr. Malillo's office, it's my way into the parent that is scared like you were, is I'm a parent.
Yeah.
Would I hurt you?
Right.
Would I hurt you? And who am I if I did? You know, and I have a child. You know, I think it was a good place to come from. And so all within that frame, now that I can communicate with him, and you're saying you're not all the way there yet, but you're getting there, it's because you see your child, his world now is wide open.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at Elizabeth Bonker. valedictorian of Rollins College 2 years ago, a speller. Now she's probably making a ton of money
He's amazing.
talking in front of everyone, maybe 10,000 a day. Who knows? But this is going to be open to our children.
Yeah.
It's what we make of what's about to happen. The influx of autism, 1 in 36, right? We cannot turn a blind eye anymore. And you don't get the fast pass in Disney either anymore.
Right.
Because all of these kids are coming to the planet. They just need to close down parks for autism because that's what's happening. And so we want to really look at how that I don't really feel Alex is alone, you know.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, you know, like I shared when RPM for us immediately made me recognize Declan's cognitive ability. You know, I've listened to probably hundreds of podcasts right at this point, and there's always parents on there that say, I knew my child was in there and I knew how smart he was. I just couldn't prove it. Well, I'm just to be frank, like I wasn't that mom. I was like, he has a significant cognitive disability and I don't know where this is going to go. Right. Like I just don't like, I didn't have those glimmers of hope or glimpses of hope or like I literally said, I think on my first podcast episode that I really felt like there was no connection. And you know, I have 2 other neurotypical children, and I feel so intimately connected to them, and have from day one. And with Declan, I really just felt like there wasn't that connection. And you know, like I could go, and you could just stick someone in my spot, and they could give him meet his necessities, like right, like meet his daily needs, and he wouldn't care. And that's what I truly felt because there was no initiation of affection from him or recognition, things like that. And so that's where I was. I mean, again, I would never be anything but honest on this podcast, right? Like that's the point of this. And so, you know, it's heartbreaking, but the beautiful thing to that is my sister-in-law, I was with one of my sisters-in-law, I was with her this summer, Beth, and she said to me, we were sitting having coffee one morning, we were staying with them for a couple of days, and she said to me, she goes, I remember when you said to me one day, I don't think that Declan is connected to me. Like it's heartbreaking, but she's like, I remember, and she has 2 children of her own. And she goes, I see it. She goes, I see the difference in him now. There's connection. She goes, you're his person. And I agree 100% with her. Like that, you know, there is absolutely connection. There is absolutely this beautiful relationship, mother-son, and it might be even deeper than I have with my neurotypical children, right?
Yeah,
because
I was gonna say that's interesting. Yeah,
we spend so much time together. And again, since I read Ito in Autism Land, which was another thing that catapulted me into like a different stratosphere, I never miss a day of saying to him, and like I usually whisper it like as if I don't want other people to hear, but like, I know how smart you are. We are working so hard to uncover you and to give you a voice, but mommy knows how smart you are, and so does dad. And, you know, and no one else is I'm not gonna ever let anyone question that, you know. And I can see the physical response from him. You know, I can see pride in him. I can see him flipping. I can see like all of these things in him and emotions. And now again, we've got ways to go, right? But like he knows it's happening, and he knows he's not trapped, and that's a beautiful thing.
I have such, I don't know if I don't think I told you the story about when he had a dental appointment, and I'm going back to like, he was 7. Now, Alex has language. It is scripted, you know, just to be clear with the audience, what we're talking about. You know, he's scripted. So everything is a cartoon. Everything is, he doesn't have a full conversation. He can't say, Mom, oh, where are you going? You and Dad are going out. There's none of that. Like we cannot get a back and forth conversation. He was literally nonverbal for a while and then gained language, but non-pragmatic language, not like that fits into a conversation. And to this day, it's the same. He had gotten dental work. I had to go to a wedding the following day. and he was under. I came home from the wedding. It was my sister's wedding. And he looks at me, ready to kill me, and he's really swollen. And I looked at him and I said, baby, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? And he said, SWOLLEN, SWELLING. Okay. I was standing there because he could spell, but I never knew he knew what anything meant.
Mm-hmm.
So is this ironic? And then I don't find RPM till 16. He was 7. I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't know what that meant. I told teachers, this kid said swollen and swelling. So he knew that it was continuing to swell.
Right.
Yeah, and no board necessary. Now, I have heard a lot of people talk about, previous to what was facilitated communication back in the day, and RPM, and any of these techniques, that there were children that were writing and some that were, doing other things to connect and let us know that they were in there. So that was Alex's way of letting me know. And then I still didn't know what to do with it. So going back, once I found the communication tool, I must have apologized to him, I don't know, 10,000 times. I said to him, I'll never make you count change again.
Yeah.
I won't, I promise you, I will keep it all, really, really academic. And we were lucky enough to have him able to take a global history class and a science class, a biology class in college, in high school. We're still working on what to do because he feels like his body's too dysregulated right now for college, but he's 25 and lots of people go back later. And so I'm not really concerned about that. I just want him to do what's soulful for him and makes him happy. But getting to the point of feeling like I could breathe about who he was, what he represents, who he is in our family, who he is to other people.
Yeah.
And I kind of honestly feel that I was so gifted with both of my boys and both are on the spectrum. AJ is a productive college graduate, drives everywhere, works with special needs children. And if any moms out there want to talk about the Asperger, I don't like to say high functioning. I think it's BS. We do not talk like that. We talk about just levels of who they are. And like I said, get online because we are going to have this influx and we are going to be a beautiful blended family. Okay. And that's the way the universe is going to be. We have to relish in the differences. And, I think we see it so much more now with, not to name any names in the obvious names that are multi-billionaires that are on the spectrum, but you guys can, figure it out with me. We just have to believe our biggest fears with our kids, you and I, Di, is language, is their inability to cope in a situation where things might get hairy and they are unable to navigate. This is the work right now that we need to do.
Yeah.
And communication, like Alex has gotten so much better with what I think could be dangerous situations. These are the things, right? Because it's not that they intellectually don't know what's happening. They can't. Their bodies do not regulate them in order to, what would he do if there was a fire? We've talked about this, me and him, he's 25. But do you get it, right? We are not at liberty to leave our children alone.
Right.
But my other one watches my guy. So it's, we wouldn't be at liberty to do that. So we have a lot to think about, but I have to say the peace comes from within and the knowledge of, and I'm a spiritual individual. I know, that it's my work, but I had an instantaneous knowing that we were going to do great things. So set aside the fear.
Mm-hmm.
What am I
Yeah.
going to bring to the table to these humans, these little beautiful starseed humans? That's what I call them. They are an incredible gift. And the reason they came in this little biosuit that they're in, this difficult biosuit, is so that people notice them and that we are, I believe they raise the consciousness of the world, of the universe. And that's where my spiritual side comes in. The consciousness is to see people for the bare bones of what they are. You know, we are too caught up in all, this
The
money,
things,
what
yeah.
we need to do, survival. It's not easy. And it's kind of awesome that they don't have to kind of think that way.
Oh, such pure
We have
soul.
for them.
Yeah, so pure. I mean, really. And I think too, once you get to the point where you know that they're cognitively intact, like the other stuff is almost like small potatoes. Like that's how I kind of look at it. Like, oh, yeah, we'll have challenges, for sure. Like even with my 2-year-old, like Declan can't tell me if Cooper's hurt or, something, or if Cooper hits him. Like the other day, Cooper was trying to latch on to Declan and give him a little nibble. And so, and Declan's just looking at him like, what are you doing? But
Like
like,
what?
so yeah, like how dare you? Why would you do this to me? But like, there was just, so there's those things, but the things that would keep me up at night, the worries and the fears, no longer keep me up at night.
Yeah.
They just don't, like, because I know he's so gifted intellectually, and we're on the path to independent communication. What more is there that I need? Like, right? Like
Yeah.
this, it
It
changes everything. It just
it
changes
does. It does. I don't know. Did I share with you what Alex wrote on Independence Day? Did I send it to you?
I don't think so. No.
I will. It's just a beautiful, honestly. He was asked to be on a podcast, right? So this is another thing that they can do. If you would have told me that 10 years ago, I would have been, you're out of your mind. And he was highlighted. So he wrote something, and I said to him, it was funny because a friend of mine asked me to get my students in my private office to write some stuff for 4th of July. I came home, I had such a day. I forgot to do it. I just forgot. I mean, I don't even know what to say, but I guess you ladies out there can understand this. And I get home and I'm like, Alex, I need you to bail me out. Well, let me tell you something. Bail me out. It was like Diane, I was hanging on his every word. I'm holding up the board and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is coming next? And it was so exciting. And the way he looked at Independence Day and what he said about being autistic in relation to independence, and how he went on about it. I will send it to you, and maybe if you want to
Yes.
read it to your audience, you can at some point. But I was
Amazing.
so I felt humbled in the presence of him. He used the term arrested development. Okay, I thought it was a show. Okay, so that was me. And then I went, wait a minute. Okay, I know what the word I know what the word arrested means, and I know what the word development means. But I never saw his world as that. But that's
Yeah.
exactly what it is.
So they're
Exactly.
so profound.
Yeah. And I do want to say something about that because I've been listening to a lot of people talking about um, the manner in which they write. This has been a beautiful conversation lately. Alex sometimes switches words around. In fact, in the podcast, he said something like, I'm a man on a mission and I'm going to rinse my words here. Now, who would use that?
I know.
My words here. Not me. Maybe not you.
Not me. No, not me.
And it's poetic to a degree, and we allow for it. But he was really like, I believe with all what we do have some naysayers about what we do in the sense of they just can't wrap their heads around their intellect, and that's their problem. But um, you know, he wants you to know it is him doing the writing.
Yeah.
And not only does he want, to plot that with me, but he wants to do it with everyone. So I think, when we talk about, I see, you know what it was, Diane? You're making me think. I felt as though his fear diminished, therefore mine did.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
if you think I saw him lighter, I saw him happier. He told me about a girl he loved. Did I tell that story before? Okay,
No.
I know I told you, but your audience. I'm not going to go into the details. It's a little bit of a long story, but told me about a girl he loved, gave me her name, told me, and after all the things he said about her, he said to me, and Mom, now you have to call her mother right now. Okay? So when people hear that story, they really, really just go, wow. Because there's just no way I would have known. She was
No.
another speller. She was another speller. And he says, Mom, you have no idea how smart she is. I know she's younger than me, but she blows us all away. I mean, that's literally what he said. So it's really fabulous, for him to have the ability to tell me about a girl he loved.
Yeah.
And it's been
tell you anything, how you think, how you feel, what you like, what you don't like. I mean, I just want to know everything. And I think that's one thing you do have to, when you're starting out on this, is like, those answers will come. You have to just be patient, because again,
yes.
had Declan been with you and had we been local with you, Declan would have been independently spelling already. Like, I have no doubts in my mind. And that independently spelling means me not giving him pressure, me not touching anything other than the board.
Great lead in, because I know we discussed this earlier off camera about, of course I am partial to RPM. And to be clear to the audience, because, at Dr. M's office, I feel very lucky. I feel incredibly humbled in the opportunity that I'm getting. Last Wednesday, there was not one single person from the United States. Not one.
I know.
Servicing the world.
It's incredible.
Yeah. And what I know is that I need to show these parents so fast.
Yeah.
How
you're there for such a short window. Typically, you're only there 1 day a week. So I mean, yeah, right.
It depends. I'm there Wednesdays and Fridays. So what happens is, depending on the parent and their time there, some people just come for a week. I have regular students who they are completely not touched, and that's just the point I want to get to. So when you have a 3, 4, and 5-year-old, we understand they don't have agency over their body. It is not a trick. It is what it is. And when I get older students, it takes me very short amount of time to get them. I don't touch older students at all. That does not happen.
Yeah. And
okay.
That makes sense. That makes
sense.
It
does. To be clear, Soma, I told Soma, this is the Mutapahati. I never say her name right, but she, we discussed this. As we are working with younger students, we are noticing that the motoring of the letters, even if we just do it for a split second, grab their hand and let them do it themselves like this. So it's important because they're so young. When I went to Dr. M's office, I said, I can't work with this age group. They're going to need to be touched. I know it. And he said, well, then you can't work here. And I went, I don't think that I want to not work here. Okay, put myself to the test. So we're working very hard on getting, and in this case, what you're doing, just to be clear, it would be the same process as spellers. I've been doing paper choices because I've had a lot of physically disabled children at the doctor's office. So we do paper choices, then we gravitate. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen the roll up, they roll up the letterboard. I'll show that to you another time. Makes it easier than the 3 stencils in some cases. A lot of the RPM therapists use it. So we kind of block out the letters A through I, J through R, S through Z, and we roll it. So
Okay.
there's just, there's different, but slow and steady wins the race. So I love the fact that you're doing that with Declan, because that's the most important. As I send people off, I get them in touch with a therapist if it's in the area.
Right. That's the hard part.
And we are really working hard. We're graduating more people from RPM in each one of her sessions. It used to be just 10 or 12. Now it's 40 or 50. So
I love that.
well, because you got to remember, we understand that there are a lot more nonverbal, low verbal, minimally verbal children coming to the planet. We need to get them an expression, just like Braille, just like anything else, for anybody who cannot have that specific modality, hearing, or speech. So
Right.
it's really powerful.
Any mode to communicate, and that's what you and I were talking about too. Is that I'm not saying RPM versus S2C versus spellers. I just think find the right mode of communication that works for your family. Again, had you been local or we've been local to you, I mean, there's no doubt we would have stayed with RPM. But I just, that just wasn't the case. And then again, I'm also a huge believer in things happening for a reason, and that this Speller Center opened in Charleston, right, South Carolina.
Yeah,
So I mean, there's no doubt that's intentional for us to go this way, right?
that's
Like,
right. And what's so funny? I know that um, I don't really want to say that. I know specifically that um, the people that were in spellers and also the S2C, the one who developed S2C, then the spellers people came from her. Just to know the way it went, and who I have a lot of respect for, Elizabeth Vossler. I will name her because she took this and really brought it to the masses, the S2C. But she was under Soma and was at all of Soma's conferences. And so this is really one big happy family, not to diss anybody, but to make everybody understand that it's not one thing different than the other, although some will say that it is. And there's different boards, and that's just a way of doing it, but basically the same thing. Soma was the inventor of the letter boards, but FC was before Soma. And FC gets a bad rap, but it is very similar. It's the
interesting.
concept. So, have you seen some facilitated communication? Have you?
No.
Yeah, check it out. There's been a lot of naysayers. People really like RPM and S2C and spellers because they're not touched.
Yeah.
So I understand why people really went to, be in that group.
Yeah, and I get that too. And I was talking to Brooke, our spellers, this communication partner, I guess I call her.
Yeah.
This morning, Declan had his 5th session today, and we were just talking about like the school. I was listening to a podcast that Dana Johnson, one of the co-founders of Spellers, who's out of Tampa, was on this morning, and I was listening to it on our drive to our Spellers session. And she's an OT, a trained OT, and but has has really jumped in the deep end, I feel like, and educated herself and figured out like, wait, they didn't teach this in school, and has really dug in and spent the time and energy, and has developed with Don Marie and through Elizabeth Foster and Soma like this spellers. And so what we were talking about though is, when do you start, like, I know Declan's going to become independent. So at this point with the school, he's not there yet. And I don't want anyone kind of messing up our flow and what we're doing and working hard to get him independent. So I'm not sharing it yet with them. But I also am fully expecting pushback because, as we know, the speech therapist at the school, who I actually like, and I think she seems like a lovely person. We may disagree on what she thinks is important for Declan versus what I think is important for Declan. Same for the OT there. It's like Asha does not, I think it says something like they're ethically not allowed to use letterboards. And
Yeah.
it's like, in what mindset do you have to say that we are harming our children by allowing them to openly communicate when no one is touching them? Like, I get the touching. And that's why, again, we dialed it back because Deck and I had developed a bad habit. And I knew it would be really difficult for me alone to get him out of, and myself out of that habit. But yet, if I wanted anyone else besides like us to like believe that 100% it was Declan
That's right.
communicating, I knew I needed to get him independent. And so
Yeah.
that's, and then Spellers opened up in Charleston and all that stuff. And so we went that way. But, it's just like, it's mind boggling to think that anyone could even say there's some ethical conflict about using a letterboard. I mean,
Look, I'm gonna state, because I've really been in it deep with the education system. And I saw it come to Smithtown, but then fail. Okay. And the reason being is the teachers, there is so much to change. You have to actually teach
yes.
real content. An example, I was almost fully spelling. My dog might bark, but I was almost fully spelling with Alex at the time. He came home with a test because he had time at home. It was basically a New York Regents global history test. I sat with him. I had no idea any of the answers.
Yeah.
I felt dumb as stone. Okay. And it was A through E choices. It wasn't 4 choices, it was 5, and they all seemed the same to me. So I was crying, and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to help him at all. So I said to him, I'm not going to be able to help you. And he said, Mom, I sat in class, Mom. Would you give me some grace? Okay. So what happens? Every answer I think is wrong, or I have no clue and I have no idea. And then he writes something funny to me. He writes, Mom, feudalism was terrible. He said, I'm so glad I got to pick my parents. Yeah. And so that was somewhat of our conversation sidebar as we were doing the test. Well, he came home with a 97 on that test. And I said to myself, wow, okay, that's pretty good. Then he's absorbing knowledge like crazy. And just listening to the way he writes essays, I know he's absorbing like more than I am. And why I bring this up a lot. From 0 to 7, we learn the most language we will ever learn in our lives. 0 to 7. What were they doing? Listening.
The only thing they could do. Yep.
That's right. And so in essence, if we think about it, I know you can attest to this now in your life now. When you listen, you learn double now. Picture what's happening when you're really young and you're a sponge.
Right.
You're learning triple the language. And that's the reason their language on that letterboard blows your mind, especially me. But my kid is 25 years old. He's, I know people that are 25 years old that are making $500,000 a year coding. Okay. So they're having conversations that I can't understand the words they're saying. So I can't be shocked that my son has that.
Absolutely. No.
Because
absolutely.
a typical kid has that. So it's really, we have to just put our trust in and take their lead, right? And really take their lead, because as things progress, they're going to get more opinionated. How about I say it that way? You'll see. Once he'll be like, oh, Mom, let's not do it that way. Oh, I don't want to go to the Outer Banks this year. Let's go to, I am telling you, you're going to be like, be careful what you wish for. Right. And that was really fun for me. So when that feeling came, like, oh my gosh, I wish he would shut up, and it's just, and meanwhile, again, he doesn't talk, he's tapping. That is magnificent. So between the dog and Declan, I think we really have it all sewn up. It's perfect.
That kind of a day. Why not?
I want him to come down the stairs so bad. I'm willing him down the stairs right now. I want to, or I don't know if he's upstairs.
He'll be down. Maybe he'll be down.
So I
He's
can
in his
see
enemy, so he's extra cute.
uh,
But no,
so
and
it's,
but I think
go ahead.
that's so important for moms listening to like this is where you'll get if you stay the course. Like that's like it's so take it from two moms sitting here, right? Like don't give up hope. Like if I remember I took Declan to an urgent care one night. He had like an ear infection, so it wasn't a big deal. But like we went to like a the local urgent care. And I always share that he has non-speaking autism so that they know, like just they'll give him a little extra grace, maybe me. And this pediatrician was older. Now I have three kids, so I'm there a lot. So I know most of them, but this gal I didn't know. And so, but she was an older lady, and she came in, and I was just saying whatever, and she shared that he's feeling it. She said that her child is also on the her adult child's on the spectrum, and we started to have this little dialogue about it, but then we moved on to Declan. And I think I shared about Dr. Ed, like what we're doing with him again in like a brief little bit, if you can even do that. And so um, I just remember her saying something like, "I wish they had that when my son was young." And I just looked at her and was like, but you can't give up hope. Like, call him. Like, I gave her the book. I gave her his name. I was like, don't give up hope. You have to just call him. Like, the brain can still change. And as we were walking out, and she noted it, she jotted it down. And as we were walking out, she kind of grabbed my arm and she was like, thank you. I needed to hear that. And I remember thinking, like, I was just like, you got it. Don't give up. Like, and I just left her with that. But I walked out of there thinking, like, oh my God, she's a pediatrician. And I'm telling her, like, don't give up. Like, clearly, like, so much has to change because even a pediatrician felt like there was no hope. But
You
then
know, that's
so
amazing.
Patrick Baby Hanley with that hope is a drug. And so she probably, her hopes had been crushed. And when I say crushed, like into smithereens, right? Like 100,000 times probably. And so she was at the end. And that is just so sad.
Here's the thing, what I've learned, and this is interesting for the audience, and as a person who's a practitioner, okay, of a spelling modality. Um, I have found that this broadened situation now of who is right for a letterboard. I am seeing verbal children. So now I do not say nonverbal, minimally verbal anymore. I have kids that just can't get it quickly from here to here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think I might have said about one of the students. I just said to him, hey, so what's the biggest fish in the sea? What do you think the biggest fish in the sea is? And he blurted out water. Now he speaks. He knew the president of Russia. He has his driver's license. He could not get out what I wanted. I picked up that letterboard. He hit W, H, and then he looked at me and he went, well,
Wow.
yeah,
Amazing things are happening.
that's right. So what happened was it was just a matter of getting it from here to here. When he saw it, which is visual, now we're using gross motor in the spellers community in S2C. They mostly feel it's motor.
Right.
I have a broader vision of that, but that's my take on it. There's more going on than just motor.
I
But
agree.
yeah, but it's okay if because gross motor actually works with the
Yep.
letterboard. That's the point. So what we're finding is the expansion of this modality to other parents, right? So they're thinking, oh, my kid wouldn't be right for RPM or spellers.
Right.
And then they don't realize it. I'm working with another student. He's 5. He doesn't have an autism affect. He is, I cannot tell you, he is a real enigma to me. And on a fluke, I was seeing his uncle, who's 25 years old, like Alex. And I said, bring him over here. Oh my goodness. what erupted. And he speaks, but he said to me, it's hard for me. And
Mm,
he's spelling, and mom didn't even know he could spell. He's on the spectrum in some way, or he's delayed in some ways.
yeah,
So I'm finding the expansion of the ability to use this form of we always call it a learning tool first with RPM, and then becomes a communication ability. So we don't just talk about communication. We want to feed these kids knowledge. Why? Because they never got it in school.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's not fair. They're not
yeah,
learning it. You
yeah,
know, I
yeah.
used to say
I,
to me, he was next to a science class and he said to me, Mom, I would try to hone in on the science teacher next door. Can you imagine?
I know,
Because
I
so I
know.
just zoned out and tried to zone in over there. So, we've got these kids are extraordinary. And it's a shame if we don't give them every resource that they can possibly have, And Asha, again, everybody is very scared of what it means to believe in not just some intellect, but high intellect.
Yeah, beyond, right, exactly. I
It's
know. And I think too, like there's an obligation then that we have, right? Like I felt like that since I found Dr. M, I felt like there's an obligation that I just have to share because, yeah, again, our favorite person, JB Handley, like autism parents trust other autism parents.
that's right.
No truer words have probably been spoken. And if you don't share, like it's so isolating and so alone and so scary. And to be able to share where I'm at today is such a gift because I would have never thought November 3rd is the 3-year anniversary of when we got Declan's diagnosis through the school. Not the medical diagnosis, but we essentially then it was in black and white. And I remember my sister and I sent it to her. She's a teacher, and I sent it to her, and she just called me, and we were just crying on the phone together. And she's like, "I can only imagine this for you to read." Like she's like, "It's hysterical," and it was so negative, right? Like so overwhelming. I mean, 3 years later, look at me. So
Yeah.
to be here 3 years later and to be where I'm at is like it's such a gift,
I'm
and I'm
jealous.
grateful.
I'm jealous of you because and Alex, I asked Alex, um what would it have been like if we were communicating from 5 or 6? And he's like, well, Mom, you really didn't need to teach me anything. I go, so that's your
True.
problem. Stop worrying about it. Okay, that felt better. And then he said, I said, yeah, but I didn't have a relationship with you the way I do now. And he said, we did in a way that was just different. And so we definitely had a bond. I did feel isolated for a long time, but me and him definitely had something very early on that I knew. But I would always say, I'm so wordy. How could he not talk? It's impossible. It's all I love to do is talk. And then I find out he tells me, I have to tell you guys this. This is so funny. He says to me, Mom, I'm like Eminem. And I went, the candy or the rapper? Then he goes, Mom, the rapper. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, he was misunderstood. He wasn't accepted in the world of black and white, right? He was the minority in his story, which is so intriguing.
Yeah.
And then he said, and he's wordy like me. So, and he says, I'm not like him. I'm in his energy field, he said. I'm in his
Ooh.
energy field. So you know what? That made sense to me because, I said, did you watch 8 Mile with me? We were laughing that was the movie. But he said, I want to feel like I'm doing what I want to do or I'm doing good. And so that's when we started to bring him to Dr. Malillo's office every Wednesday,
I love
uh,
that.
demonstrating. And the most beautiful thing he said to a little 5-year-old There's my boy.
Hello.
Hi, handsome.
You say hi,
I
Miss
miss
Nancy.
you.
You can have
Hi.
you can
Looks
have this
so
while I'm
big.
doing this, okay, friend? He's like, Mom, just give me YouTube Kids because you're on a call. He knows that's when he only gets it.
Yeah. Wow, what was I just saying about Dr. M's office? So,
Yeah.
Alex will demonstrate for it's the beautiful thing to, to be able to see your child in its infancy of RPM and then me showing the end result. So he's with me all day on Wednesdays doing demos. And the other day, the most beautiful thing, I don't even know what to say. This little girl, she's 5 years old, spelling beautifully, very quickly, as a lot of them do. And when I said, why don't you give the parents some advice? And he said, he looked right through the parents. He didn't even look at them. And he looked right at her. And he said to her, it's time to wear your crown. You're smarter than anyone in this room. Yeah.
I'm sure the parents were weeping at that.
They were. And it was so funny because both of her parents, as did she, well, she wasn't crying. What was she doing? She was giggling. She was laughing. She was like, yeah, you're damn straight, kind of. And the parents, like both of them had really big eyes. So it was really sweet, handsome couple. And they're like, the tears were dripping down their face. Because Alex, you can't unsee Alex. When you put that letterboard in front of him, his eyes go to the letter way before his hand does. And that is a study that has data. We have data on the ocular things they had put on certain particular people, they spellers, and they saw that the eyes went to the letter prior to the hand.
Which
Okay,
makes sense.
it
That's
makes
easier to control.
right. The caveat there is there are some children that have the board completely physically memorized, sort of like the savant gifts of autism, right?
Yeah.
And they can look at it, and it's also they're ocular defensive to the letterboard. So they can sometimes they won't look at it, but it's like kind of an eye shot. But in general, when we're looking at a kid's spelling, they're it's pretty clear that they're doing it themselves. Like an Alex, it's pretty clear and provable. So that's a beautiful thing. But I'm seeing him having a job. A parent walked in on Friday. I don't take him on Fridays. They looked right through me and went, "Where's Alex? Where's Alex?" I wanted to ask him a question. So wow, and respected.
Yes.
Is that all I want in life? Is to feel that we are doing something that people respect, and
Well,
this is the journey.
yes, and in that Spellers documentary, Sid's mom, I can't remember her name, but she's a scientist, and she was doing that TED talk, and she put up the picture of Sid and was like, "What comes to mind that he's, not cognitively intact, things like that," and that's what she said. She's like the thought of not presuming competence leads to disrespect, and presuming competence leads to respect and of the individual, and I just thought that's so powerful. And what I also love that she said was, you've got all these experts saying it's not backed by science. There's no science to prove it. She goes, I'm a scientist, I don't care about the science. She goes, I see my kid spelling on a letterboard, I don't care about science. And I think most, if not all, parents would not give a crap about science. Like, I don't care what your data says, I don't care what it looks like. I care that my child is communicating and I know that he's doing it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was very, very like I said, not necessarily skeptical. I was more pretty much, I'll be damned if I can't do this with my own child. So that was Alex always says, if we're in front of an audience, he'll always say, Mom wouldn't take no for an answer. Mom wouldn't take no for an answer. And I wouldn't. There's just something to the audience too that really is important. If you have a child that's minimally verbal, the first thing to do, obviously assuming competence, but literally what we do to our children is we talk loud. They can
Yes,
hear.
yes,
They're not deaf. Okay, speak to them like you would speak to a typical age group. That's RPM or spellers.
yes.
That starts it. Talk to them with integrity. Talk to them with respect. Let them know that you know that they're smart. That journey will come. And then you will see a difference. I actually give that advice to teachers that I presume won't use RPM or spellers. They won't use it. But I'll say, okay, you want that kid to listen to you? Then you will have them in the palm of your hand if you just talk to them with the respect and integrity, assuming that they're smart, assuming that they know, and you will get a lot more out of them. So we could start as parents with that same exact vibration by it's just not just the
Yeah.
teacher, but the parents that say, I guarantee you will, within 24 hours, I might have told this on the last one, Alex did RPM. Within 24 hours, he went into school. They called me within an hour and said, who did you send into school? Because they were throwing us out because he was aggressive. That's another story for another podcast. Yeah.
That's the impact it had on him. And I think too, it's a mind shift for these kiddos. And this is, in our spellers lessons, she'll read, and she's got a 2-room office. So one room we're in, and the next room is like her little waiting room area. And Deck goes around and just moseys around while she's reading. And she doesn't change her tone. She doesn't elevate her voice. She doesn't bring it down. She just reads at the same tone the entire time. Whether he's flapping and stimming, vocally stimming, it doesn't matter. She's not interrupted at all. She just keeps going. And I'm learning through that too, because there's also this mind shift too of look at me, look at me when I'm talking to you, right? None of that anymore. None of that. It's I know you're listening, whether you're in the bathroom and I'm in the kitchen. I know you're listening if I'm talking to you. And what I've started doing too now is playing Mozart, just music, wherever Declan is, not all the time, but if I notice especially too that he's getting very hyper or very stimmy, I'll just throw that on. And even if he still is jumping in the trampoline that we have in our living room, he'll still jump, but it like quells his really loud vocal stims. And my husband and I are like, that's crazy. That's like, it's like magic, but he still stims, but it's the music has an effect on him that is either soothing or helps him regulate himself.
Yeah,
And
well, we can
it's
go
just
into
a
a
total mind
conversation
shift.
about that. I would love to do that on another episode. My husband, we call it sound therapy. We have 3 gongs. We have singing bowls. We work with autistic children through the state. And if I told you the regulation that is happening because of vibration and sound. And so I highly recommend, I know you don't live by me, I wish you did. I highly recommend taking him to one of those experiences because you can get it at a yoga studio. And see if they can do it for children with special needs too, so that you can have them all in the room without having to worry about noise. So, but there's something very strong about sound and vibration for these children. It makes sense because you just said it. I mean, you
Yeah.
literally, yeah. And so don't underestimate, but we are working with many older guys, and some young ones. In the initial stages of me doing RPM, I was like last resort. People would come to me when their children weren't speaking. But to be very clear, and I do want to say this, it's an important point. When the kids are very young, I got asked this question 5 times in one day. If he's using the letterboard, will it stop him from speaking?
Mm.
Absolutely not.
Couldn't agree more.
If your kid is going to speak by hell or high water, they will. Okay? If the ability is there and the work is done, it will be there. And so do not be afraid of that. And also, I do like speech therapy, but I like a particular kind of speech therapy. And this would be, I would advise you with Declan, is prompt therapy. Because what we're trying to do, prompt speech therapy, is movement of the mouth, being able to have them articulate. I have kids that are nonverbal that love to read along with me. Now, what do I mean by that? If they're nonverbal, well, they don't really read with me. I make them touch the word, and I go from word to word. It could be high level, it could be low level, it doesn't matter. And they'll go, even if they're just making an utterance, they're so happy. Why? They're looking at the word. They know the word.
Yeah.
In their mind, they're reading the word. And now in their mouth, they're making some type of utterance. They actually feel like they're doing something. And they are. Because intellectually, they actually can read, but we don't want to push them into reading big. And I'm sure the S2C, the spellers people say it.
Right.
But reading a big hunk of information is very difficult for their eyes.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't do that to them. But we could do this and show them. So I find that there's things that they can do that they can feel accomplished. So do that with Deck, because I think he would like it, and just whatever books he's reading now, age appropriate.
Yeah. And I think I'd say to you too, I was that mom. I remember meeting our speech therapist for the first time, Lisa, we're Facebook friends still. I mean, she's a wonderful human being, truly a kind woman who had the best intentions. And, was her skill set what a non-speaker needed? Probably not, right? But I mean, I didn't know any better. And I adored her, right? Like she was my person during COVID. And so, but I remember her talking about, like using some type of an AAC device or whatever. And I remember thinking like, no, I want him to talk. Like that's going to hold him back from talking. That's going to give him an out, not obviously understanding that those things actually help and supplement and add value to him. Obviously, I'm there now, and I've been there for a while. But other moms should know. Like, I 100% agree with you. I fully support those types of assistive devices or whatever we want to call them. It is not, in my opinion, going to ever detract from the child wanting to talk or trying to talk.
It was so brilliant to have that ability to do that with the student at Dr. Malillo's, who said whale after realizing the two letters. So and not only this, I was working with him for 3 months. They gave him the Wyatt exam 3 months after I started working with him, and he went up 8 grade levels. They came into my office and said, Nancy, this is close to impossible. I says, you're telling me this is me? I'm the reason? I think he was able to execute and started to feel confident.
People believed in him, right?
Yeah. The execution, but when he spelled WH and looked at me and said whale, as though he was like, oh, Nancy, how could I not get that? And look at that. I was able to get it on my own. You never said the word. I never said it. Right. So you get it? So that was something that just didn't come easily.
Yeah.
It just, and that was a great form of saying, wow, this letterboard, not only is it amazing and for our minimally or nonverbals, but it's just all good all around, because it's giving them the opportunity to pull the words out.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, I think it's in the beginning, you just don't know anything other than you've just been handed this really scary diagnosis. Like I've said in the beginning, I couldn't even say it. And my sister gave me the best piece of advice ever in this entire journey was, then don't say it. Who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, that word doesn't matter. It doesn't change what you're doing for Declan and the supports you're putting in place and the action you're taking. If you can't say that word, don't say it, but don't get hung up on it. Just keep moving. Like, you don't have to say it.
Plus, when you're actively doing things for your child, it keeps you out of your head. Let's face it, it is not a preferable diagnosis. Come on.
Yes,
I don't have to tell the audience that, or you. It's not what we thought we wanted, but it's our journey. Welcome to Holland. And if you haven't read that, Welcome to Holland, you must.
I know.
Oh, well, just you do that the second you get off the podcast with me. My people out there that are in it as long as I have read Welcome to Holland. You'll see. Just Google it. It's nice and simple. You'll understand it. You will cry and you will fall. What's that?
Is it going to change my life like Ito in Autism Land?
Yeah, it's not going to change your life. It's just going to reiterate what you already know. But it's such a beautiful short. It's not a book. It's like it's a poem, really. It's a story.
Okay.
It's just, yeah, your audience will appreciate it too. Welcome to Holland. So, and I don't want to give it away. I want you to read it. It's beautiful, and it's just a different journey.
Okay.
Than expected. You'll understand. You'll understand. Your audience will get a kick out of it. If they know what I'm talking about right now, they're going to be like, oh, I get it. She's right. She's got to read that. Okay. So you'll understand it. It is all about the beginning diagnoses and how you feel, but just read it. These are the things we are faced with. And in the journey, I have to say, I made lifelong friends that are my besties that I do programs with. They are also RPM. We pulled 3 girls together that barely knew each other and flew to Texas and became best friends. Okay, so, what a terrible thing that came out of that, huh? Let's see what else. Then another thing happened, right? You know, we were able to advocate for a kid who had something, and you know, you walk out feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's that is where, and Alex too, boy, let me tell you, it's not just mommy and needing, you know, her ego boosted or anything like that. My son feels worthy of life. And if that's what we can give them, you know, I don't know exactly what it looks like, but we are working with a foundation called Karen's Hope. And we are helping with housing in a self-directed way, that it is not somebody else running the child's house. It is the parent and their team of support that runs the home and manages the homes. So the foundation is raising money to purchase homes. We're on the second home right now. Okay. And so we look at the future because we want our children to be as independent as they possibly can be. I'm at the age now. I was where you were, and I didn't think about that. But it is a great thing to say you have resources now.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. I mean, a lot of parents are purchasing their own homes and then working around it. It's a little bit more work, and they're going to do some good things about getting it more systemized. Yeah. So, and that will come. And especially you have a long time to be worried, to not think about that, but to sort of put your head there, because, you know, some kids go off at 18 to college and never come home.
Right.
But we can't conceptualize that with our children right now.
Right.
I can now with Alex. He does live home. You know, he's a pretty easy kid in the sense of now he's not aggressive anymore. As it used to be, because he's communicating. So that was a big help. It really was. It doesn't eliminate the aggression totally. It is 80% better since he's been spelling. So yeah, I mean, I can go on and on with that, but we could do 10 more episodes. I'll be fine with that.
I know. Well, and I was thinking we've shared a lot, we talked a lot. I just think like the biggest takeaway from this is I think it's probably from all of them is like, as a mom, this is just a journey. Believe in yourself, right? Like, don't give up hope. Have your bad days, right? Like, it's always okay to have your bad days, but pick yourself up and like fight the fight. Like it's so worth it. And I think our journeys can give others hope that are just starting out, because I would have never thought I would be sitting here today 3 years in, and not only having this conversation with you, right, and having a podcast like about sharing my most innermost feelings. I mean, that is so crazy. And those that know me know that's not really my style, but I feel like because I have this sense of like there's an obligation to give back. And I just, I'm not a neurologist, I'm not a chiropractor, I'm not an RPM specialist. So like maybe this is the way that I give back and I'm okay with that. But it's just not giving up and but also allowing giving yourself grace as you navigate because even though Declan is only 5, I still feel guilty about the fact that I didn't believe that he was cognitively superior, for probably from day one of the diagnosis forward. And probably even before I didn't need a formal diagnosis to tell me he was a little different and extra special. But so it's like there's guilt there too. And I think there will always be guilt. And I don't live in it. I will say that. I don't live in it, but I always carry it with me. And I think also there's guilt. I provided him that sweet little home in my tummy, right? Like I carried him. There's guilt there to think, did I do something that didn't provide him with the best place to develop? And again, I don't live there. So it's not a headspace I live in, but it is always something that is with me. And I want to be 100% transparent that that's just how it goes. And I think I will always carry that with me. But again, because I don't live there, it's not something that drags me down or detracts from my ability to fight for Declan and to know that I'm giving him the best life that I possibly can and that we are on the road to success and to communication.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, what else? So many people liken these children to Stephen Hawking. And because of these intensely difficult body, we really can reckon it to that and know that intellectually that they are there, but to prove that we're just noticing that them having the ability to spell has been given us in many facets the ability to feel the feeling you're feeling right now, to say, oh my goodness, the hope is there because I know he's there.
Yep. Without a question.
I've never been more convinced of anything in my life than my son's intellect. And Dr. M talks about it a lot. The left brain has all the language. These kids have a hyper left brain. They have the ability to have language and higher level than most. And so it's the conversion of it, coming in and being able to transfer into the hemispheres. I am not the expert here. I listen. I try to listen to him. I did this week. He's fascinating, and it seems to be coming together in the science for me, and exciting to be working with such a renowned doctor who all over the world. Like I said, it was not one person from the States the other day. I'm humbled in the presence of these kids and their families who come across the globe to do what they can for their children.
Yeah.
And now fighting something that is so pivotal. I believe I'm pivotal. I just do. And he's put it all together so that the kids get almost everything they need. It's like there's almost nothing left out. Not to blow smoke up anybody's in either case with me or him, but it's a great union that we've created. And
look at the lives you're touching. I mean, we're sitting here today doing this. Like that's it truly is a gift. And I think especially the moms, like, we have this Malillo moms group that we chat in and WhatsApp, and we're just moms that are not okay with just it being okay, right? Like we're always fighting and we're always talking about new things and how we can help our kids. And it's like it's just so transformative to know that you're not alone, but you have a direct impact on this entire group. And now it's our job though then to share it, right? Like we can't just keep it in. We can't keep it our secret. Like we have to share. And I will say though too, like that there's the neurotypical moms, there's the neurodiverse moms, and then I feel like there's kind of the Malillo moms, like where, I look around at Declan's school and in his special needs class, and not one is right or wrong, but I just don't feel like either are the right spot for me. The right spot for me is with these Malillo moms, because we're all of the same mindset. Like, we're not okay with just being okay and staying in the box. And I want to share, but I think there's like with certain people, and you got to know your audience, because like I was saying to my girlfriend the other day how if I said to certain people like, oh, Declan's a genius, like they'd be like, get her in the hospital like ASAP, right? Because it's so far from their realm of possibility. And yet I'm done like tampering that. Like, I'm done. I don't care who you are. I don't care how you receive what I say. Like, that's just what I'm saying. But there is power in you and Dr. M, and Dr. Ty, Dr. Jesse, the whole team of people there are just so important, but need the moms to share. Like, no one is going to share it like a mom. No one's going to have the passion that a mom has. And I just think it's such a gift to have found him. But I will say, like, when I'm meeting with him, usually after Dex eval, Dex usually with Jesse doing his thing, and I'll go into Dr. M's office and he starts talking. And I'm like, am I looking glazed over? Because I like just get lost in his words. I don't know some of what he's saying.
Oh, God.
Like, can he tell I'm looking glazed? But to be in his presence, I just know is such a gift. And even Tim said the other day, or when we first met Dr. M, Tim said something about like, oh, it's his last time he's doing this training or whatever. And I mean, I wanted to strengthen him. Like, I was like, but yet it was a known thing that Dr. M, this is the last he was doing. It was almost like he told me Dr. M had passed away, because he's my hope, right? And I don't feel that way now, but I did feel that way in the beginning, because so many people, experts, had crushed my dreams, and Dr. M hadn't crushed my dreams. He gave me hope. And I just, there's just so much we can talk about.
I know, it's crazy. Like, it's absolutely, my son just came in with his worker. They had a beautiful day. I'm on a podcast, guys, so I can't like talk. So I know, right? It's like, okay, this is going down. But it's funny because, I see Doc as somebody who, before I got there, was presuming competence with kids.
Yeah.
He was absolutely doing that. And so that was a good thing. Like, we were just already in sync. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. You need me? I'm literally on a podcast. Like,
yeah, we're wrapping up.
Would you need me?
Well, I just wanted to know what time.
Oh, yeah, we'll talk. Just text me and I'll give you the answer. Yeah. Sorry, it's just.
Listen, we're wrapping up anyway. So
you can edit that.
Yeah. I'm not that skilled, but that's fine. It brings a level of realness to the podcast.
Yeah. I know, they had a great day today. They went to a farm, and then they went to, they probably did their blog. They have a speller's blog. So it's really amazing. We're look, we're doing everything that we can to just, what do I want from my kid? What do you want for your child? Happiness, support, love. Love is all there is anyway.
Yeah, agreed.
And so to have them have that, real, a soulful life, and doing things that we know would challenge them, certainly, and we're doing that with, I definitely challenge him in a very intellectual way, as you do now with Declan. Think about, had you have imagined somebody reading to him a full passage and him being able to answer it?
Nope. It's amazing.
And that's only probably a year and a half ago that you couldn't picture that happening.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right. So the possibilities are going to become, for you specifically, because you're doing this, are endless. The possibilities will be endless. Declan you will be going around. I'm going to predict. How about we do that? Let's have some fun. You're going to be going around to school districts. You're going to be presenting in front of school districts like I do. You are going to be showing people. You're going to be in front of many, many people. And so when you do that is when you are really connected to him, and that's when we did 2 lectures for Dr. Malilla. And that was the most soulful thing I've ever done. I love to talk in front of people, you could probably tell, but I don't have any performance anxiety. But I was nervous about falling apart in front of this group, like, crying or whatever, or whatever, feelings that I wasn't completely comfortable in front of strangers, academics, no less.
Yeah.
And so, and Alex doing a Q&A and just watching him, just the pride that I felt was just beyond. And so endless possibilities, and I'm in it now. So, and you'll see, just get yourself completely connecting to him in a spelling way. And I think you are, and I think you're going to be even better, just like I am with Alex, where he doesn't need to be touched at all. And that's where you'll be.
Yeah,
and so, I can even see you working with kids, special kids, and maybe kids that just come your way that you need to help. And you become a provider. So
yeah, believe me, this journey.
I know you have a job and you have 3 kids. So how many things can we do? We are women, by the way. So we are capable.
That's right. I mean, that's right. I like to challenge myself. So no, but it's true. I mean, you being where I'm at now, it does make me think of what's my purpose? How can I help this population? My career is more about just providing me a financial means to do all of these things for Declan and my other kids, of course, and less about really fulfilling me, right? Like nothing fulfills me like even just talking about this stuff, like this is,
yes,
I could talk about it all day. I love it. And I love hearing other people's stories. It's really important. But I think let's end here because we've talked a lot, which I love because I love you.
Yeah. This is a long podcast. We're gonna be like, oh,
a long haul.
But I think we covered what we said we were going to, because it is important to give the parents a perspective on how they will feel as they go through the journey. Because in the initial stages of diagnosis to where I am now, it's I can't, I feel like I'm in another universe.
Yeah.
Okay. So is it still scary for him? Sure. I'm not saying it's not. It's just a different way of handling it. I feel like I have tools.
Oh.
I feel like I have the tools, and I didn't feel that way before. And so experiencing this now, and I'm actually really happy you asked me to do this because it brings such like almost sequence to it all for me. I've had to be thinking about the sequence of events that happened over the years because I've just been living in the now.
Right.
My spiritual life tells me to do that. So live in the now. And instead of thinking what's to come, we do the work at the moment that leads us into the future. Right. So you're doing everything you need to do. You do not have to be ahead of yourself all the time. You don't.
Yeah.
In fact, you shouldn't be. You should be living in the moment, but experiencing, all of your well, we're making major milestones with Declan. I don't even know what to say. I'm happy to be part of that journey. And the reason for your journey right now, because you have now found the resources in your area where you can let him fly.
Yeah.
And that is, I don't know what to say. I think I said it all.
You're a gift to our family and we love you so much.
I love you guys. I can't get enough.
Well, good, because you're coming back on.
You let me know.
Besides my sister and Brendan, you're my favorite guest.
Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. All right, well, thanks everybody for listening. Hopefully you stayed with us this whole time, or at least can listen to it in a couple of chunks, I guess. But it's been great. Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Great to be on this.
Bye.